It's only 180 days or 6 months until we put our house on the market, and the time is going really, really fast. But we're very happy with our new plan, which is basically sell everything up, sell the house, take my pension early at 55, stop working, and then live on a boat. That's not exactly what's going to happen. We're going to be living part of the time on a boat. We're also going to be spending part of the time touring Europe and the UK in our caravan. And also, just to clarify as well, I have some boating experience. I've owned a cabin cruiser, a 23-foot cabin cruiser. We're going to be getting probably a 10-metre boat, which will be about another 9 feet on top of my bayliner, which I had. I've slept on my bayliner during winter months, during the summer months. It was a petrol engine. It didn't have a diesel heater, didn't have any kind of heating on it whatsoever at all, apart from a little plug-in thing which I used on shore power, which is an 800-watt filament heater. The video on my channel, very, very early days when I first started the channel, where I used the thumbnail saying I nearly froze to death on my boat. I did nearly freeze to death on my boat. It was a very, very cold night, but I didn't have any form of heating with me, and I should have taken it with me. The boat that we're going to be getting, the 30-metre cabin cruiser or motor cruiser, we're not sure exactly what we're looking at, but we've kind of narrowed it down to a few different types now. But it will have a diesel heater, it'll have hot water, it will also have a water heater as well in the bathroom area. There's a lot of boats that we're looking at have those. So we will have hot air blowing through the cabins, directed through the cabins and that kind of stuff. We'll also have electric heaters as well, where we'll be on shore power. We'll have it fully solared up. I'll have probably anything between 300 and 700 watts of solar panels going through to a battery bank, which will, give us most of our electricity usage, to be honest. We'll cook on gas. And it'll all be good. Where we're going to be looking at mooring, I have had comments where people are saying, oh, it's terrible in winter, terrible with the bad weather, it's terrible this, terrible that. Living on a boat, really not a problem. Thousands of people do it in the UK. Thousands of people live on motor cruises in the UK on leisure moorings, not necessarily residential moorings. The river where I'm at, it's a tidal river, and we even had a tidal wave come up at one point when my bayliner was there. No problem at all, no damage to the boat whatsoever. We've had some major storms. I've even slept on the boat during some major storms, and a little bit rocky, but I love all that. And my wife doesn't have a problem with that either. So yes, all good. So that's the plan. Now, money-wise, as a result of the last video, I had a few comments on cost, saying that the cost is going to be absolutely immense and undoable and everything else. These are clearly people who don't live on a boat. So let me just clear that up. We're in brackish water. It's in a tidal river. So when you have anti-foul, you don't have to have blackening like you do on a canal boat or a narrow boat. Now, again, thousands of people in the UK live on narrow boats. They have to be blackened or sealed so often, probably every couple of years, I think. And that's a major, major job. You're talking about a 60-foot or more boat having to be hauled out of the water. Massive cost in the slings and all that sort of thing. Have it painted and sealed up. With a GRP make, which is like a glass glass fibre hull, you have anti-fouling. Now, bear in mind, my bayliner was anti-fouled in 2018. It had a 2-year coat on it, so it's like a 2-season coat. Cost me about a couple £100, I think, something like that total, and it cost me about £100 to have it lifted out at the time in the Dover Marina. So yeah, a few £100. I then never had it anti-fouled again until I sold the boat this year in June, and the hull was absolutely fine, no barnacles or limpets stuck on it at all. I know that because I was with the guy who bought it off me, and when we got it onto his trailer, I could see all the bow and all the hull, absolutely fine, no problems at all, and all the anti-foul was pretty much still on there, all the paint was still intact and everything else. So where we're going to be mooring, hopefully, will be in pretty much the same kind of water. So anti-foul, even if I did it every year, we've got a trailer pool where I can get the boat out for nothing each time. So it won't cost me any haulage out fees or haulage back in fees. It'll only cost me anti-foul. I can buy anti-foul paint, and on a 10-metre boat or 30-foot boat, costs maybe anything up to a couple of hundred quid. So, you're talking like 10, 20 quid a month for maintenance there. Engine maintenance, I will have people on site who know how to completely overhaul a diesel engine. So there'll just be oil, the odd spare parts, maybe some gaskets and that kind of stuff to service it. I didn't service my engine when it was rebuilt in 2018, and I sold it last year. All I did was start it regularly and kept the oil topped up, and the engine was absolutely fine. They don't need the kind of maintenance that some people are saying that they do. And if you're on it and you look out, you keep all your levels oil's topped up and everything else. Diesel engines are very, very easy to maintain. So, and that's something that I can learn to do. But I do have people that I can contact and literally will be around who can help maintain the engine. When we're buying a boat, as long as we get it surveyed properly with an independent surveyor, that may be a bit of outlay at first. We might not then choose to buy the boat that we've had surveyed if it comes out bad. So that might cost a few £100 a couple of times. But you can also go off the back of existing surveys as well. And, it depends whether the boat's been used very often or not. If a boat's been, out cruising lots, and as long as it's been anti-fouled and stuff, then, that says to me it's a working boat. It's running. Electrics wise, a lot of it runs off, all the engine and interior stuff works off of 12 volt pretty much. Unless you get a really large boat, which is about 24 volt, but 12 volt's easy to maintain and easy to overhaul and upgrade and add things onto. So I'm perfectly capable of dealing with all of that. And the battery system, the solar system, I will build all myself. Mooring fees, as I said, max you're looking at on that kind of size boat, maximum of £4,000 a year. So I've way overestimated on that. Where I'm going, it's going to cost a hell of a lot less than that if we can get all of that sorted, which would be great. I'm going to get that confirmed later next week. So the real reason why we're doing what we're doing, right? This is about the road less traveled. This is about living life on our terms. Now, property ownership is not the be all and end all. It's, there's some kind of hard tradition in the UK that you've got to own your own property. You've got to own your own property. Look, I know lots of people who rent and don't have any pension. They don't have a house to sell, and they're approaching, my age, if not older than me, and they're in a situation where they've got absolutely nothing. Now, we've got a guy up my road. He's 60. He lives in a council house. He gets all his rent paid. He's on the sick for his back, even though he does deliveries. I know he does. So he's scamming the benefits system. He's got no savings whatsoever. He's got some Bitcoin, and God knows what he's going to do in retirement. Well, he's got everything paid for him already, so he's okay. So for someone like me, where we own a house with a mortgage, we've got to pay the mortgage off and everything else. We want to be shed of all of that burden, and we will be. So we won't be paying council tax. We won't need to. We'll have a family address that we can use for the leisure mooring that we're going to be on. We're going to be travelling in between the boat. We're going to be in the caravan. We'll have the tow vehicle to take us to Europe or various places around the UK, and we'll do that as long as our health allows us to. The other thing as well is this is going to be a massive downsize for us. All right, so all the stuff that's in our house will either be, by next year, by the time we actually get rid of the house, will either be sold, binned, or given away to family, friends, and what have you. That's what's going to happen. So we're going to be living literally from scratch on the boat. Now, I've looked at the things that I've actually used in my house over the last week. I've just been keeping a little note. Apart from my phone, the camera, my video camera, my computer, I've got clothing, toiletries, toothbrush, and food. And that's pretty much it, right? Showering and all that sort of stuff, right? So when you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is you need air, you need water, food, and shelter to survive, right? Anything on top of that is luxury. But that in itself can be a very, very nice way of living, right? I'll use my guitar and my electronic keyboard, which is tiny, and it will go on a laptop. So all of that we can have on the boat. We're not going to need a great deal of storage on the boat, but the beauty of this is we'll be able to store our caravan literally 50 yards from our boat for free. We can also store quite a bit of stuff in the caravan as well. We've also got storage areas where we're going to be mooring. There's going to be storage areas there, which is all kind of included, where I can store stuff like my little rubber dinghy and my petrol motor and things like that. I can store those there, so I can use those every now and again. Apart from that, so I'll have a toolkit. We'll have clothes. We'll have our toiletries. We'll have space to store food. We'll have a fridge for fresh food. I'll have one guitar, which I'll go down to. I've got about 6 guitars, but they're all going. They're all going. It's not a problem. Really not an issue. So I'll keep one, maybe 2, one electric, one acoustic, and my little keyboard. So for music making, because I've got lots of little hobbies. One of my other hobbies is paragliding, which I may get back into, and I've got a paraglider in my loft. All that needs is a service, which will cost about £200, and that can be stored at a paragliding club if I want it to. In fact, it's not huge. It could probably be stored in the caravan, to be honest. Most likely, I'll end up selling it because I haven't been for some years, and I think I'll be fairly busy down on the boat and touring in the caravan and everything else. But the point I think a lot of people miss about all of this is, we need a home to live in, but it doesn't have to be a permanent home. It doesn't have to be bricks and mortar. It doesn't have to be anything like that at all. As long as we've got somewhere that's ours, that's paid for, that isn't causing us any debt or any major outlay, and trust me, it won't be causing us any major outlay, not with the setup that we're going to have. And as I said, thousands of people in the UK do this. They don't always advertise the fact. And I think it's actually an increasing trend as well. Van life, a lot of young people are going towards van life because rents are just through the roof. People just can't afford to live according to the normal perceived way of living these days, especially in the UK. And this is why we originally were going to go to France, because it's cheaper and everything else. The laws are still very tight though. You can't buy a piece of land and then just go and live on it. But the properties were very, very cheap with land attached to them. And we both agreed it would have been ideal, but at the end of the day, we really want to be close to family. And this suits all of it. The original setup for this channel was all about, our original plan was all about living on a boat. The only reason we changed our mind about it was because we didn't realise what the cost was going to be. We thought the cost, we miscalculated the cost basically of mooring fees. Now we've looked into it, we know that we can get it for make it much more affordable. So the thing is I could potentially, with my pension, I could probably draw down my pension and pay off my mortgage over the next 7 years, and then we'd have our house owned outright. Yeah, we could do that. Is that favourable? No, absolutely not, because then what will happen is I'll have to still work for the next 7 years, and then after that I'll have no pension. We'll have my wife's pension, which won't be enough to cover all the bills, so we'll still have to work. So we'll be working until we are well into our 60s, 70s. So we'll just work for the rest of our lives basically, and I don't want to do that. So we've got an opportunity now to not work, but we've just got to find somewhere to live. So that's what we're doing. The compromise is, there's no compromise with stopping working, right? So the ultimate goal is to stop work when I get my pension next year in March, right? We may have to work a little bit while the house is being sold, but once the house is sold and we've got my pension, then that will be it. We won't be working. Then we've just got to find ourselves somewhere to live. The current laws make it really, really difficult to just choose where you want to live. You have to go by the accepted route, and that's what we're doing. Is we're breaking out from that accepted route. We're breaking out from that norm, and that's what we're doing. We're going to find somewhere else to live, where we can live legally, without being harassed, and get on with our lives and do the things that we want to do, and have a massively reduced outgoings each month, and rather than trying to work for the whole month just to pay the bills and still have nothing left to enjoy, no money left to enjoy our lives afterwards. We're done with that, absolutely done with that. So the only way I would keep my house is if I won the lottery, or if the mortgage company said, yeah, you don't owe us anything anymore. That's the only way we'd keep the house, because we've got money locked up in the house, and that's what we need to do. We need to release that money, add it to the pension money. I may be repeating myself here from the last video, because I recorded quite a lot of the last video walking along the beach, and the stones were the sound of walking on the stones was so loud. It was not uploadable. I couldn't put it on YouTube. You wouldn't have been able to hear it. Anyway, the main thing is we're going to be just free of working. We're going to be free of council tax, free of debt, free of any kind of mortgage. Yes, there will be costs to live, but we're willing to take that risk for a life less ordinary. That's what this is about. We're done conforming now. Anyway, I might go through some numbers on the next video, but we're also going to be looking at some boats next week, and looking at some areas where we might want to stay. So I'm going to be filming in those areas as well. But going forward, that's what's going to happen. We're going to be experiencing boat life and van life at the same time. So let me know what you'd like to see more of in the comments. I'd appreciate that. In the meantime, thanks to Tony and Lisa B for your super thanks, and thanks to Defeful Blog for your ongoing support and super thanks. I really appreciate that. Thanks again to our members who are supporting the channel, Hilaire, Mike Plummer, Paul C and Indy Scott Bryan. I appreciate your support, I really do. So if you want to see more videos about our boating life and van life, and why we're retiring and breaking away from the norm, then please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, all that good stuff. And in the meantime, I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for watching.